Hello, spinach farmers, and welcome to Circuit Court Entertainment, where we discuss how laws and history affect all forms of media. I'm your host, Nina. First of all, Happy New Year! 2024 is over, and on to 2025. We have covered some interesting legal conundrums and have more ahead, so I look forward to talking about them with you. Also, the episode I did on Poe did astonishingly well. It's now my third best episode of all time, and checking the stats showed people were also checking out other episodes. And most of it was organic. So thank you. That was a true Christmas gift for me. I hope you all have returned for this new episode that luckily comes out on January 1st, so we can all ring in the new year together with new public domain works. I have covered this before back in 2024, New Year's 2024, but as a quick recap, up until the Copyright Act of 1976, the U.S. copyright system was a bit haphazard and finicky. Famously, Charade and Night of the Living Dead went into the public domain immediately due to improper citations on their film prints upon release. Though improper copyright is also partially why the U.S. managed to save all copies of Nosferatu. Since Dracula was in the public domain in the U.S. due to not properly submitting copyright, Nosferatu was not bound by copyright, and while an unauthorized adaptation, not an illegal one, so all demands to destroy it were invalid. After a while, the system was codified and put in at 50 years after the death of the author, or release for works with multiple collaborators, such as film. This was extended in the 90s to 75 years and was mostly in line with international copyright laws, until Sonny Bono's death. Sonny Bono, most famous for being married to Cher and her producer, went into politics upon their last breakup, and died suddenly in a skiing accident. A few years later, the Sonny Bono Copyright Extension Act was unanimously ratified, which froze all copyrights for 20 years, as it was claimed it was something he was interested in. I was not able to find any direct quotes by him on it, though he was in a Senate committee about the subject. Disney is usually blamed for this, and I'm not saying they are blameless, but if the old system was still in place, Bugs Bunny and the Universal Monsters would have been in the public domain by now too. This is ignoring items such as the Minecraft poem, which the author elected to place in the public domain before its time. But that is where we are, and with that in place, now is the time to discuss big things arriving this year. In the world of books, A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway, The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner, A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf, the original serialized version of The Maltese Falcon, the English translation of All Quiet on the Western Front, Agatha Christie's The Seven Dials mystery, and Ellery Queen's The Roman Hat mystery are all going into the public domain this year. Pulp novels were also still going strong, as Tarzan and the Lost Empire was released in 1929. Okay, so what does that mean for the world of books? Well, for starters, any of these books can be re-released, remixed, and returned to without any estate's permission. While books like Dracula are the most obvious benefits of this, there are so many different versions of Dracula that the public domain status allowed for it to flourish. Just this year, we can look at another benefit of this, The Wizard of Oz. The first book was published in 1900 and, predating several of the Copyright Extension Acts, went into the public domain in 1956, though some of the later sequels are still under copyright. As a result, while the iconic movie is still under copyright, retellings of the book have shown up as animated movies, as characters in Once Upon a Time, a 1978's all-black version, The Wiz, an NBC show called Emerald City, where Dorothy is a cop who arrives in Oz and now must try to bring it back. If you don't remember it, don't worry. It lasted for one season in 2017 and ended with really low ratings. Yes, it does look like they were trying to ape Game of Thrones. And of course, 2024's smash hit Wicked. Will we see a new version of The Maltese Falcon or A Farewell to Arms soon? Unclear. But what is clear is now these books can go on to Project Gutenberg, and you can read them for free at your leisure. Also, come on! A Farewell to Arms and The Maltese Falcon have a lot of relevance to the modern culture. Please watch the attached source on Patrick Williams' video on the public domain. In movies, the stage adaptation of Dracula, Mickey Mouse's first talking appearance in The Carnival Kid, the classic short The Skeleton Dance, the first Marx Brothers movie The Coconuts, Alfred Hitchcock's first sound film Blackmail, the first all-color and talking movie On With the Show, Best Picture winner Broadway Melody, The previously and still kinda lost film musical Showboat, and Harold Lloyd's first sound comedy Welcome Danger. Keeping with the Tarzan theme, Tarzan the Tiger, based on the earlier novel Tarzan and the Jewels of Opar, came out too. As stated above, this does mean some remakes are on the table, along with being able to use it in other media. Night of the Living Dead is the most famous of these popping up on TV in TV shows and movies, but now that we are moving into more recent sound and some color films, we may see more. But I think the easiest thing is these also just make these movies more accessible. Free streaming services, TCM libraries, Criterion Collection, they all benefit when these movies, these foundational texts of a new language, are now free to watch and discuss. My dad is a Harold Lloyd fan, Skeleton Dance is a meme, Alfred Hitchcock has a ways to go before becoming the master of suspense, but not only does it all start here, but they all have points to defend themselves, and not being freely available to watch keeps people from discovering them, especially as late-night TV becomes less of a thing as cable dies. On to music. As stated last year, music recordings and written music are under 2 separate copyrights. So while the sheets of music are available this year, recordings have a 100-year license due to a separate copyright law. Written music this year includes such gems as Am I Misbehavin', Tiptoe Through the Tulips, Singing in the Rain, Am I Blue, that people may remember from Batman singing it in Justice League Unlimited, thank you Kevin Conroy, and Happy Days Are Here Again. However, the actual songs now in the public domain include Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin, Everyone Loves My Baby by Louis Armstrong, If It Had to Be You by Marion Harris, and Tea for Two by Irving Saver. So any of that written music can now be sung by anyone at any time, and the record version can now be used freely. I better hear Tea for Two in the next adaptation of Popeye. Speaking of, in comics, there are 2 big entrants this year, Popeye and Tintin. Though, just their comic versions. This mostly affects Popeye as his spinach was more part of his 1933 Fleischer cartoon version. As a side note, Olive Oyl has been in the public domain for longer, about 5 years, and that whole group was part of the Thimble Theater. Thimble Theater had a large cast, though Olive Oyl, her brother Castor, and her boyfriend, Ham Gravy, were the main crew. In 1929, they hired Popeye to sail them to some place, and he sort of took over the strip. Tintin's first novel was released in 1929, but only in Belgium. It did not reach America until the 1990s, at least in a collected version. The AP is reporting that it did appear in the US in 1929. While a few things still remain under copyright, like his colored appearance as he was initially published in black and white, this may push Spielberg to do his long-desired sequel to his 2011 Tintin adaptation. Listen, I love that movie, and I think I'm the only one who did. Please, I want to see it continue. And to wrap all this up, art from 1929 is also now in the public domain. As we wrap this up, I have to say this kind of thing is a lot of fun, but it really shouldn't restrict you. While everyone's takes on Dracula and vampires have given us a wide array of vampire media, from Castlevania to Monster High to the Vampire Diaries to Nosferatu, the opposite can also be true. It's been reported that Buck Rogers, the comics, are entering the public domain this year too, and Flash Gordon not only inspired Star Wars, but the initial intention was to do a big screen remake of either of them. But Lucas wasn't able to get the license, so he borrowed from Akira Kurosawa movies like The Seven Samurai and made Star Wars. And as much as we need both, I still have a grudge against Sonny Bono. Look, the freeze held us back. Do you know what we should have gotten by now? The classic Wizard of Oz movie. Thank you for listening to Circuit Court Entertainment. This episode was written, recorded, and edited by me, Mina. My main editor is out this week. Social media will be reorganized next year, but the Tumblr Circuit Court Entertainment is still up. I'm working on a Blue Sky, and we do have a Reddit. It's CCE Pod, due to word lengths. I also have a Gmail account, circuitcourtentertainment@gmail.com, and feel free to send anything there. Thank you, and have a great 2025.